Welcome back to the Gaming Ground channel, and I'm your host, Action Jack. And I just did a long post on Twitter, and that's something I usually don't do. So, in making that post, I was like, might as well make a video to have this conversation and to kind of give more detail outside the characters that I'm able to give on Twitter. So, as you can see, we're talking about these new rumors and reports that are saying that Sony is reportedly testing a new PlayStation handheld. I would exclude the rival Nintendo Switch part, whatever. But you gotta entice people to come to the article one way or another. But either way, we've been talking about or having conversations about Sony going back into the handheld space since the Vita, right? Whenever the PS Portal was kind of rumored or hinted at, we thought that's what it was going to be, but then it ended up being like a streaming device, right? And while it's added more functionality outside of just kind of being remote play, I think you can now do cloud gaming on the device from its latest update. So that's actually pretty cool for, I think, like a $250 device. I could be wrong on that, but I think that's how much it costs. But nonetheless, I mean, there's plenty of devices out there that currently do that at this moment in time. Hell, even with my ROG Ally, I can remote play from my PlayStation. I can do remote play from on my Quest 3. There's apps out there that will allow you to do that. But that's not the point of this conversation. So what I want to do is read this article, and then I want to kind of give my spiel, which kind of mirrors what I said on Twitter if you have not seen it. So it says, Sony is reportedly testing a new PlayStation handheld console that would directly compete with the Nintendo Switch. Nintendo has almost always had the handheld gaming market cornered. The juggernaut gaming company has had few competitors over the years, as the Game Boy, Nintendo DS, and most recently the Switch have all been dominated the portal market. Try as they might, others, including Sony and past generations, haven't been able to stay afloat for long. However, a new Bloomberg report revealed that Sony is reportedly testing out a brand new PlayStation handheld, one that will be a direct competitor to the Switch. According to Bloomberg, Sony is developing a new portal console that will allow PlayStation 5 games to be played on the move, like Nintendo Switch games, which can be played anywhere. This handheld is reportedly still years away, and the company may decide not to bring it to the market in the end. After all, the release of the Switch 2 is on the horizon, and there have been or have ever been talks about Microsoft looking to develop into handheld devices. While Valve has succeeded with its portable gaming console, the Steam Deck, neither Sony nor Microsoft have been able to break into the market in a big way, though that could soon change. Now, as I stated before, my first issue with this, I doubt anyone saying that Sony's going with the mindset of this being the, I guess, direct competitor to the Nintendo Switch, because for me, one, as Sony, I feel like they respect Nintendo enough to know that you cannot make a one-off console to where they have this hybrid device that is both a home and a handheld device, right? So if you have that level of arrogance to where you can say, hey, we got a PS5 Pro, but then we're going to make a little handheld off on the side that can, compete with the Switch because that's what some people like. They want to play on the go. Then, you got some pretty big balls to even try to do something like that, opposed to just putting all your eggs in a basket to truly go towards this idea in this hybrid nature to give people the same type of product or a better version of said product of the Switch, right? So that's problem number one with with this article. Number two, to be able to play PS5 games on the move. Now, a lot of people really go on this very surface level, blanket level of descriptions and arguments of what can and what can't be played on a Steam Deck or on a Switch or on a PlayStation. A lot of consumers or a lot of people on Twitter do the eye test. If it looks super pretty, it can't play on the Switch. If it looks cartoony or if it looks a little bit on the artistic side, it's doable on the Switch. Everybody does the eye test. They don't know the resources. They don't know what it takes to play the game. They don't know what it takes to run the game. And they end up looking very stupid, but, it's the same narrative that gets repeated. And, ignorance is bliss. If you don't know, then you can just spew whatever you want to, or you can just say, I'm not a journalist, so whatever, right? So when I look at PlayStation 5 games on the move, from Sony's own standard, PlayStation 5 games are not up to par, so we had to release a Pro. So why would I want a handheld that I know is not going to be as equal to the PS5 if you just said the console itself is not even doing what it's supposed to be doing, so you had to release a $700 device to get what people were asking for, what developers want. So with that, you're saying, okay, the base can't do what it needs to do or what developers want it to do. They can't live out their dreams and get their ideas across. So we're going to give them a pro. Now, if I'm looking at a handheld, we know that it won't be on the pro level. It won't even be on the 5 level. Like, we have to get out of this mindset of, okay, just because the game is running on the 5 or is running on the deck as well as the 5, that it can run PlayStation 5 games. There's levels to it, right? So while we understand that the very base level of the conversation is, can it run? Then you go into the, well, can it run it well? And running it well meaning stable, whether it be a stable 30, stable 60, what have you. Can it in turn look at a graphical peak? So we're adding more cherries on top, but we always focus on the main two things of, one, can it run, and can it run well? Now, we've seen this with the Switch, whether we go back to games like The Witcher or the Doom game. So they say, like, okay, it can never run on the Switch. It can run on the Switch, and sometimes it even runs well after all those patches. Initially, some games that come out cannot run well, but they can run. So it's just kind of up to your preference on what you are accepting of what is running on said device. If we're talking about Steam Deck, or if we're talking about the ROG Ally or the Legion Go, people have to stop thinking like, okay, I can just go and play these games and they run like the PS5, or if they run in general. Like, you have to understand, a lot of people are doing hell of a lot of tinkering to ensure that these games run well, for one. For two, we have dedicated websites. And I've always said this has been a problem. We have dedicated websites that have to go through and do this testing. Like, I have to go and make these adjustments on my ROG Ally quite often for different games, because you can't just set it on one setting and just forget about it. And that's kind of something that comes with PC gaming. Now, with that being said, you can make those alterations and make those adjustments to either make your game look a little bit better and run and kind of balance it out. It just depends on what you prefer. Do you want to run at 60 and not look as clear, or do you want it to look super clear and run at 30? You have that option to try to play around and figure that out, and even download, some different shaders or things of that nature to where people can really fix the problem on PC. You're never going to be able to do that on a PlayStation, Xbox, or a Nintendo device. It's just not going to happen. So you're now counting on developers that already have an optimization issue to also optimize for a handheld. I'm not buying it, like, not even remotely close. I don't think they're going to truly invest into it, especially if we're talking about this being a secondary and not the primary of Sony's attention. Sony, to me, has never put a lot of stake in their secondary devices. We look at the PSP, it succeeded because it was hacked. Like, people look at that 80 million like it sold 80 million straight off of what it was providing. No, like, most of us knew how to hack that thing and play emulated games on it. I was emulating grown men's PSPs as well as my high school friends' PSPs at that time, just so they could play Mortal Kombat, Mortal Kombat 2, play SNES games on their PSP. So let's not forget why that was a problem. The PS Vita didn't do as well, and that's solely because of a multitude of things. A lot of people say that was it didn't have a marketing problem. It had quite a few issues. I would say for those that really wanted the 3G version, AT&T had some very bad deals at that time. I remember because I got the early bird version when I was in Alaska at the time, and I paid the extra money to get it, like 2 or 3 days early, if not a week earlier. And I also had the AT&T SIM card, so I could put in there to play it on the go, even though really it didn't function all that well in Alaska. But that's another story. But then, you look at the proprietary memory cards, because they were trying to get away from what happened with the PSP, and it kind of hindered them because those proprietary memory cards were super expensive. Like, some of them were more than games. So we look down the line and get a little bit more current, and you see people found ways around it, but at the time you didn't have the ability to do that. And then you go into how you control the thing. You didn't have two shoulder buttons anymore. You had the back tap pad, which didn't function all that great, and most developers didn't take advantage of it anyway. Most used it for the L2R2 opposed to something different. And then also too, Sony themselves abandoned the Vita. Like, they really didn't release that much for the Vita. And it kind of goes into one of my older videos as well. Handheld games are still a thing. Like, that's still a category, right? When we talk about mobile games, I'm not trying to play a 30 to 40 hour game on my cell phone. I'm not doing that. Same thing with my Quest. While there are some great games, I'm not trying to spend 50 to 100 hours in a Quest. And I'm not saying in one sitting, I'm just saying in general, because sometimes things just get burnt out over time. So when we talk about Handheld, it's kind of the market that mobile took over in a way, to where you kind of have a decent pocket size adventure that you kind of figure out, I say within like a 15 to 20 hour span, but it's a quality game and you can get that quick, bam, 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 let me knock it out and call it a day. Now, not saying that is for everybody. Some people do like those longer games, and having it portable gives you the ability to play it wherever you go. We're in a different space now, to where you kind of take it wherever you want to go as an adult. As a kid, of course, you try to take it to school, take it on school bus, whatever. But as an adult, it's a little bit more difficult. But, to each his own. I still feel like there should be more of those handheld pocket games for handhelds to truly succeed. But at the same time, I don't count the Switch as a handheld. Does it have a handheld function? Yes. But it also has a docking function for you to play, and it not upscales, but it also kind of enhances the games a little bit, if you will, when you dock it. So all in all, Sony hasn't truly put that love and care into anything that's not primary. You look at the VR headset, the PSVR 2. While there are some that will argue, oh, Sony did this, and this, you have to look at the first party effort. I don't care if you put anything out. If the game is not good, that don't count to me. But if you also have IPs you can be creating, or IPs you can be feeding off of, and you've only utilized one, that's another problem too. So when I look at the history of Sony doing handhelds, I'm not excited. When I look at the history of them and their secondary devices, I'm not excited. And then also too, looking at this article, if your idea is to bring PS5 games, what is the point of now this portal? You say it's to take it on the go. From my understanding, if you got Wi-Fi, you can do the same thing with this portal. But how would those games work on that device? Are we just downloading them digital? That means now we have a memory situation. Are we putting a SSD in this to where it's a little bit bigger? I've switched out mine within my ROG Ally. Even 2 terabytes is okay, but it's nothing crazy. Even at some point, I gotta start deleting stuff still. But I'm pretty sure they can pull that off. But more or less, the battery to me is gonna be the issue, if anything. Like, no one has figured that out yet. Like, the technology with battery has not expanded enough to where we get out of this 2-hour, 3-hour range with some of these games, right? And most don't want to be hugged to a wall where there's a charger already plugged in. Some of us is okay, some of us are not. When you talk about like a smaller form factor, will people be okay with that? Because from my understanding, from what I've been told, that if your game's not running 4K 60 frames per second with ray tracing, it ain't top dog. So will that fan base, with games running at maybe 1080, if not 720, and upscale just a little bit, but at the mark of being hit at the battery life level, or for your frames to be dropped a little bit, or for this to be only digital, because I don't foresee them making another media format just for PS5 games the same way they were doing the PS3 thing, where you got the disc and the cartridge for the PS Vita. I don't foresee them doing that with this situation. They're already, in a way, I don't think making anything substantial with this PS5. And even if they are, they keep increasing the price on, the devices. At some point in time, when we went throughout generations, prices were coming down. The PS5 went up in price, and the Pro is $700. So you just kind of have to pick and choose what you like in that scenario. To me, none of it sounds appealing at all. And then, like I said, my final thought process in all of this is kind of this continued comparison to the Steam Deck. And I'm curious as into how many people own one. Like, how many people own a Steam Deck and genuinely utilize their Steam Deck? Like I said, my oldest son has a Steam Deck. I purchased him a Steam Deck, and I have an ROG Ally. those are not the devices you compare this to. One, because they're portable PCs. This PlayStation handheld is not going to be a portable PC. The only one that I can foresee doing that comparison to is probably Xbox's handheld, because it's probably the route they're going to go. They're going to find a way to create some UI or OS to have like a mirrored marriage between the two, to where you can do the Xbox games as well as like the PC games, and find a way for you to tinker with the device, so that way it's not so locked down like a console that you can't make any alterations or adjustments. So I don't understand that comparison and why that continued comparison comes up, and usually it's coming from those that don't own one, and they don't understand the headache that comes with the Steam Deck. Like, you're not just hearing about a new game and saying, oh, I'm going to get that on Steam Deck. You have to do research first. You have to wait until somebody purchases it first for them to play it and figure out the settings and see if it runs properly before you even go and spend that $50, $60+ on said game. And I know the simplicity with console is not going to translate to that properly if that is the case with this device, which we know it won't. But that's my whole point, is stop making that comparison to the Steam Deck. Is it a handheld? Yes. Does it play PC games? Yes. Are there games, and are there games that share on both devices? Yes. But that does not mean that they're one in the same. They both have different functionality. So you kind of have to stay away from that. Now, you can make the comparison to the Switch, but at this point in time, they said that is what is going to take some time. Is going to be later down the line. It's going to be years away. So if this is years away, one, will this be their next iteration? Will this be what the PS6 is like? Not sure. If it's not, you're a bold somebody trying to put out a handheld with and marriage into the PS6 and kind of try to play that same game again, the same way you did with the PS3 and the PS4 when we talk about the Vita and the PSP respectively. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know where this article was going. I get they got their clicks with it, but in all honesty, the way they laid it out, in no way is it going to compete with the Switch 2 if it's coming out later, because then the Switch 2 would have a head start. If it's not Sony's proprietary, device for that generation, then that's already going to fail. And then if we're talking about it being the proprietary console, how would the crowd or the PS fanboys or anybody, as far as gamers are concerned, accept it, right? Like, you went the way of Nintendo. Now what? Because I don't foresee them doing detachable controllers or anything of the sort. Are we getting the same device just in the handheld form, or are you going to add some functionality or add something different that's really going to entice us to purchase that device? And how heavily are you relying on PSSR in this situation? So I don't know. Honestly, I think they're going to wait and see what Switch's success or Switch successor's success is going to be with this whole DLSS situation, and try to go from there. But in all honesty, like this article said, there hasn't been one that has defeated Nintendo yet, because they know how to do this. They still have fun as their forefront, gameplay as their forefront, while everybody else is looking for graphic fidelity and movie scripts and things of that nature, and open worlds. Like, forgetting that we're playing video games. I'm not here to play a movie. I'm not here to play the latest TV show. I'm here to play a video game, in which, like I said, I know people like it, but this is kind of why they're in the situation they're in. If anything, they will be innovating opposed to copying. So yeah, I got it out a lot faster than I thought. But thank y'all for tuning in. I want to see comments down below too. Like, do you see this as a valuable route for Sony? Even though I feel like this is the route that the entire gaming industry is going to go, because Nintendo has found so much success in it. And if they find success in this successor, then it's going to be what everybody follows to do. Or do you think that this is a bad move? Do you foresee Xbox having better success with it, or do you think that's a bad move for them? Just let me know. Come and talk to me, and I can't wait to see the comments. And like I always say, be respectful down in the comments, and also give feedback. I got some great feedback about the volume, so hopefully it's better and it's increased this time around. So thank you for your time. Like I said, it's your boy Action Jack, and I'll catch y'all later. Peace.